else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Good evening and hello, my name is Dominic Frisby and I'm your host for Headliners, the show in which comedians, not journalists, read through tomorrow's papers, or today's papers if you're watching the early morning broadcast. As always, we start with the news, and here is the doyenne of news reading, Polly Middlehurst. To have cut out, so we're going to go straight into the show. No news, I don't think, and it's not quite clear why we lost the sound, but we did. Hey, it's one of those things. So before I introduce tonight's comedians, and they are excellent comedians, let's have a potter through today's headlines. I have them here, and we start with the Daily Mail, which has Prince Andrew's 41 denials over sex claims and bombshell for royals. I demand a jury trial. That's a story we'll be covering in a moment. And then we have Tory MPs tell Boris, spike tax hike and we'll back you. They don't want those NI rises. On to the Daily Telegraph. The same story. National insurance rise will push up prices, PM warned. And there's also a smaller story there, British troops poised to join bulwark against Russia. Moving on to the Independent, we have the long-awaited Sue Gray's report. It's being scrubbed by lawyers. That's to get rid of all the civil servants' names so they don't get the mob lynching them. And there's also Johnson accused of lying over Afghan pet airlift. That's another story we'll be covering from today's Independent. I'm hoping the images will catch up with me very soon. As we move on now to the Times, which has shops and trains stick to masks as Plan B ends. That's a story we'll be looking at, the end of Plan B restrictions. There's the Prince Andrew story, and also this rather worrying story. Police seize anti-trans book from activist. Police have arrested a women's rights campaigner for an alleged hate crime and seized an academic book from her home after she put up posters directed towards the trans community. That is very worrying, or at least the implications of that seem to be. On to The Guardian next, and we have PM accused of lying over rescue of animals during the fall of Kabul. And we also have US asks UK to put more troops on war footing, and a picture of Jack Munro, who is hailing the change to the way food price rises are measured. On to the FT, and we have ECB warns Europe's banks over risks in Russia-Ukraine sanctions. If international sanctions are imposed, that is going to put pressure on people who have lent money to Russia and the Ukraine. There's also Federal Reserve signals first rate rise in March as it fights rampant inflation. The Federal Reserve had their meeting earlier today, or rather the details of that meeting were published. On to the I. Publish and be damned. PM waiting on his fate. This is the delays to the Sue Gray report. We move on to the Metro. Andrew, its trial by jury. That's the Metro. I'm sure the graphic will catch up with me imminently. It's the Express now. I'm afraid I'm one ahead of you guys. Party rallies behind Boris. And then there's also the Andrew story. Andrew shock, I want jury trial. On to the Sun, and it's Andrew again. He's all over the tabloids. Andrew, I'll go to trial. No sweat. We move on to the Mirror, and it's Andrew again. I bet the royal family are delighted to see Andrew plastered all across the tabloids in this way. Andrew, I'll face a sex trial jury. And finally, we have the Daily Star, which has, I think they must spend all day just writing the headlines and don't bother with the actual stories. We've got another belter here. Bozo clings on as he is accused of telling another whopper. And then we have a picture of a grave and it says, here lies the Prime Minister's credibility. And lies, and lies, and lies, and lies, and so on. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the headlines. And in a break with tradition, we're not going to go to our comedians next. We're going to go back to Polly for the news. Here she is.
Thank you. Yes, you can hear me now. Take two with the headlines. I'm Polly Middlehurst and our top story. As you've been seeing in many of the newspapers, lawyers for the Duke of York have accused Virginia Giuffre of wrongful conduct and bad faith in her civil sex abuse case against him. They've submitted a document to the New York court citing a dozen reasons why her case should be denied. Miss Giuffre claims Prince Andrew sexually abused her when she was 17, 2 decades ago. The Prince denies all allegations. Number 10 has confirmed it still hasn't received Sue Gray's report into the alleged parties in Downing Street that are supposed to have happened during lockdown. The Prime Minister told the Commons he won't resign after the Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer, accused him of misleading Parliament on the alleged parties. Labour is demanding Sue Gray's report is published in full after Cabinet Ministers hinted the findings may be redacted for security reasons. International news, and the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has urged Americans in Ukraine to strongly consider leaving the country now amid concerns Russia could invade. Russia has around 100,000 troops amassed on its border with Ukraine, and Antony Blinken said that the security situation in the country is unpredictable due to the increased threat of Russian military action.
Our message now for any Americans in Ukraine is to strongly consider leaving. And if Russia invades, civilians, including Americans still in Ukraine, could be caught in a conflict zone between combatant forces.
Antony Blinken. Well, here at home, Downing Street insists Boris Johnson had no role in authorising the evacuation of animal welfare activist Pen Farthing and his animals from Afghanistan. That comes after an email released by the Foreign Affairs Committee indicated the Prime Minister approved a charter flight for the former Marine after Kabul fell to the Taliban last summer. The rescue effort led to allegations that animals had been prioritised over people. Prince Charles has commissioned a series of paintings of 7 Holocaust survivors. The Prince of Wales met the men and women depicted in the artworks who all sought refuge in Britain after the war. Among them was Lily Ebert, who showed the Prince her Auschwitz tattoo and the pendant she managed to hide during her time at the concentration camp. Prince Charles says the paintings are a living memorial to the horrors of the Nazi regime. On TV, online and on your radio through DAB+. You're with GB News. That was your Second Take headlines. Now back to Second Take headliners.
Thank you very much, Polly, dealing with the technical troubles absolutely seamlessly. We've got the headlines, we've done those, we've done the news. So to tonight's guests, we have a comedian who, and I quote from her website, has been delighting audiences with her cheeky, dark and delightfully filthy humour. It's Diane Spencer.
Hello.
How are you doing, Diane? Have you had a nice day?
I have had a lovely day, thank you.
Good. What did you do?
I had a 90-minute long nap.
Oh, very nice, very nice. I wish I could say the same for myself. And we have a comedian who, and I quote from his website, has toured in Dubai and Doha twice and was loved by expats who didn't like to pay tax. It's Nick Dixon.
I forgot that was up there.
Yeah.
It's not that popular, is it, to say you've been in Qatar now? I might take that down.
I would. Just my advice. Now, I was going to do my introduction by saying we have the hot Diane Spencer and we have the sweaty Nick Dixon.
Why are they always so anti-me, these introductions?
Because I don't know, because you're a white male.
That's what it is.
But the reason I was going to do it is because it links beautifully into our first story, which is reported in the Metro and pretty much every tabloid. Prince Andrew's legal team has filed papers in which first he denies all sex abuse allegations from Virginia Giuffre, and get this, his team have also requested that the royal be granted trial by jury. Now, that will mean Prince Andrew taking the stand to argue his case in front of jurors, and one can't help thinking, given his track record, that might be a mistake.
Could be a flaw. A jury of his peers. Are they really his peers? I don't know. But yes, that could be questionable.
It's in America.
Right.
Not in England.
OK. Is that one of our phrases then?
Well, I think it might be.
OK.
I don't know. I guess the principles are the same. But, I mean, you would have thought being in England, everyone will just, try and shop him. But
yes.
In America, they might be a bit more respectful.
I know what you mean. You do question his judgment sometimes, like when he asked Emily Maitlis, should I mention the sweat? And she's like, of course. He's like, no, don't mention the sweating thing. But yeah, he's tried to get the case dismissed. And then when that failed, he's suddenly gone, then I demand a trial by jury. He's tried to sort of front it out and pretend it's like, this is what he wanted all along, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's like, I don't want this case at all. Well, it has to be tried. Exactly, let's have a trial by jury. I demand the fair hearing.
I think the problem is he's not... I don't think he's the brightest cookie in the pack.
How dare you?
Way. And like you and I, all three of us, we've grown up and we've had to argue, all our lives to persuade people to get our way, to nudge and do all the other things. You sort of think Prince Andrew has just been able to give orders and get his way. He's never had to be a great orator or persuasive or any of those kind of things. That's why I think it's a mistake. Do you have a view on this, Diane?
I do. I agree with you. He doesn't give off good people vibes. He's not got a very welcoming aura, shall we say, possibly from the many years that he's just spent bossing people about. And I agree with you, like a jury of his peers, because they're going to have to find, surely, 12 people in America who don't already have an opinion about the case. They are going to have to find 12 people who have never heard of Prince Andrew, or at least have heard so little that they can give him a fair trial.
It's possible to do that, is it?
I don't know.
No, isn't it? They have to have probably no history of showing massive anti-Prince Andrew prejudice, I suppose.
Yeah. The one thing is, I know when I've done speeches and they go, sometimes your speeches don't go as well as you might hope. And one of the symptoms, if you want to tell if I'm dying in a gig, one of the symptoms is that I break out into a sweat across my forehead. And I think that's quite a common, symptom. But if it hits Andrew, if he starts sweating during his
Can you imagine?
Yes.
Wouldn't that be brilliant?
That would.
Like straight away, you're sweating guilty.
Yeah.
Don't even need to the rest of the thing.
Yeah, everyone's going to start laughing in the court, which could be a problem. Of course, he'll be able to say it was only a specific time that I had that sweat-related condition. It was just in that time period. Although there was an article where they found...
I don't think he will be able to say that because it involves too profound a thought.
Well, that's always been his claim. But then there was an article, wasn't there, that they found 5 instances of him sweating around that time.
Yeah.
So yes. It might not be true.
You look at the pictures, though, and he's sort of... There's one where he's obviously sweating there.
Do you know what, Dom? I
think they might have photoshopped it.
I don't want to be controversial. I'm starting to question the veracity of the whole sweating story.
So am I.
Outrageous, isn't it?
Right, our next story is from The Independent, and yet again Boris Johnson's relationship with the truth has been brought into question. You might remember the rescue of cats and dogs during the fall of Kabul in the summer. Boris and Downing Street have said he had nothing to do with it, but emails have emerged that rather suggest he did, Diane.
Yes, well, there's a couple of emails that suggest that he did actually authorise for the charity known as Nowzad to airlift their cats and dogs out of Afghanistan ahead of all the people who helped us. And there are several clear issues with this.
It was a full plane load.
It was a full plane load of cats and dogs. Now, even if you go with the most kind of bizarre thought of, oh, well, at least we can rehome them here, they don't speak English. They are Afghanistan cats and dogs. So, I mean, my friend adopted a Portuguese dog, and she said he doesn't understand. She's had to learn Portuguese to sort of persuade the dog to do things.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's
There's
not...
also the issue of disease. I think a number of them were like mangy, and I think they might have had to be put down anyway, which makes the whole thing a bit redundant.
It's horrible. It's horrible that they've shipped this plane full of potentially mangy animals ahead of all the people who helped us. And there is a question...
But the big question is, was Boris involved, or was Carrie involved?
Yeah. Now, you see, sometimes a woman exerting a little bit of influence can be a good thing. Like Jerry Hall married Rupert Murdoch. And until Jerry Hall married Rupert Murdoch, I noticed that Sky News didn't care about the planet at all. As soon as they got married, eco-warrior Jerry Hall and Rupert Murdoch, suddenly it was all save the oceans. So I wonder whether Carrie managed to have a word in his ear, which must have been a loud word considering the wallpaper in that building, and she managed to persuade him to get the animals over, which is just... I can't even begin.
Well, it's very credible, because one of those emails came from Zach Goldsmith's office, and I think she might have had a bit of... The rumour is there's a bit of previous with her, and Zach is obviously keen on animals and everything. And the email said the PM has just authorised their staff and animals to be evacuated. So that was in the email. But it wasn't an email from the PM, but it was an email on the day reporting that the PM had authorised it. It might have been mendacious, it might have been erroneous, but the email was there.
It may have been Carrie logging into his email account going, save the cats and the dogs, signed Boris, send.
Yes.
View on this?
Well, yeah, pretty much what we said. I mean, the big question is, did he give priority to the dogs over the Afghan workers? He said he didn't. I hear he's not always the most trustworthy chap. Of course, Carrie is obsessed with dogs, as we found out back in March 2020 when they were all wondering what to do about COVID, and she was worrying about that dog story coming out in the press when Dominic Cummings said she went absolutely crackers about her dog. So he does have previous of prioritising dogs, and also he did try to call himself the Big Dog recently. Remember Operation Save Big Dog?
I thought that was Digby.
So that might be it. So maybe he did prioritise the dogs. But Boris instead, I noticed, wanted to focus on the fact they evacuated 15,000 people, which is, that is an achievement. So, maybe this dog story is a bit blown out of proportion.
I think it might be a little bit. The Guardian is running it. They can't stand Boris. The Independent's running it. They've both got an agenda. The second email actually said that the staff, not the animals, had been evacuated. So I don't know. I wonder if it's a slight... They're desperate to punch a man, get him while he's down and get rid of him.
Yes, I think there's an element of that
going on.
We agree.
For the first time ever. Actually, I don't think that's true. All right, let's move on to story 3. Hallelujah, the COVID rules come to an end today or tomorrow if you're watching this on Wednesday night. No more compulsory masks, COVID passes, no more working from home guidance. Who is our expert on masks? Is that you, Nick?
Yes, of course. You know that, Dom. But yes, every COVID rule being lifted tomorrow as Plan B ends, and then the mirror's gone through the restrictions that remain, which there are a few. So masks have gone, COVID passes have gone, but venues can still use them if they want, which is a bit sneaky. And then, of course, Javid doesn't want us to have too much fun. He said it's not the end of the road, and Boris has said it's not the finish line. So they want to retain a little bit of this feeling that we could use these powers again.
Yeah, they're covering their arses.
Right. Oh, will I say that? Yes, exactly.
Yes, it's held on the off comment.
OK, good. I'm so worried about that. But yeah.
But just in case, I apologise.
And so do I, on his behalf. But they could. Yes, it is a time to celebrate. We are ending the restrictions, but they are retaining that, and they say we should. Boris said we should think about masks. Just think about them. I've thought about them, and the answer is no, thanks. And also, I should point out, sorry, but Tom, just for the unvaccinated people on my Twitter, they are still retaining some slight discrimination against the unvaccinated because they have to isolate for longer when they come back from travel. So there is a little thing there.
They have to take the I don't know why I did that.
What are you doing?
Can I add one more thing? It's funny that this is in the Mirror. When we actually it was interesting that just yesterday they ran a piece from Polly Hudson saying we should force the unvaccinated to take the vaccine. It was kind of an appalling piece saying we should make them social pariahs and force them to take the vaccine. But now So I do think the Mirror seems to have a bit of an anti-freedom agenda there. I thought that piece was absolutely disgusting. Did you see that?
No.
OK, I just wanted to get that in there.
Right, do you have a view? Are you hallelujah, end of Mars Day?
Well, my view is they're probably dropping these rules because they're just bored of breaking them. They've just gone, do you know what? We've been caught breaking so many rules. Let's just get rid of the rules. And
there's a bit of that.
There is a bit of that, isn't there?
I think it's actually to keep the backbenchers happy.
Yeah.
The rebellious backbenchers, give them their libertarian dream. I will say, you know, if a shop wants to insist on you wearing a mask, it can, or a venue.
Well, Sainsbury's has carried on.
I approve of that. I don't approve of them necessarily doing it, but I've always said from the beginning, a voluntarist approach which relies on, you know, venues make their own decisions is the most responsible and probably the most conservative, you know, traditional conservative approach, and we're sort of going to that.
You're going for the sort of libertarian private company argument.
Absolutely. And I'm not giving you a chance to
rebut it.
Because we're coming to the end of part one, which means it's time for an ad break. Don't go anywhere.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. My name's Dominic Frisby, and with me are the notorious Diane Spencer and the gregarious Nick Dixon. There we go, a much nicer intro for you, Nick. So the Home Office stripped a woman of her citizenship without notifying her, and her name is mysteriously D4. Diane.
D4, worst spy name ever. This is awful. I can't believe this, but thankfully somebody called Lady Justice stepped in. There is Lady Justice Whipple, which sounds like a very nice ice cream, doesn't it? Lady Justice Whipple said, no, you can't do this, because the woman, D4, she was, it's clearly a terrible pseudonym, or perhaps she's related to Elon Musk. D4 was stripped of her British citizenship, even though she was born in Britain, in the UK in 1967, but they just took it away. And thankfully,
where was she? She was in somewhere. She was in Syria or somewhere when they took it away.
Yes, she was staying in a Syrian in the Roj camp in Syria since January 2019. But the way that they stripped her of her citizenship was that they placed a note on her Home Office file, and that was notifying her. Now, I'm ever so sorry, but you need to at least send a ruddy postcard or something.
Yeah.
I mean, that's such a piece of news. It's like, oh, by the way, welcome back. You've been stripped of your citizenship. We've changed all the locks and we've thrown all your clothes onto the lawn. It was just such a shock.
You do wonder how these things happen. Like, who was in charge of surely that's like a standard procedure that if you're stripping someone of their citizenship, you at least notify them.
Well, it's Clause 9 of the Nationality and Borders Bill, which I know from memory, to remove the requirement to give notice in a wide range of circumstances. So there you go.
So they weren't in breach of any rule.
No, this is a controversial rule that's allowed this to happen.
Oh
apparently.
My goodness!
Yeah,
but it's been overturned. So they've broken their own law, or the judges overturned the law, or.
Well, you see, what happened was they went to the Court of Appeal and the vote was 2-1 that was unfair because she was not notified. She didn't have a chance to sort of say, hey, come on, no, give me a minute. She never got that opportunity. And in contrast...
Why was she stripped of her citizenship anyway?
Well, do you know what? I did try to find out, but I actually couldn't. So...
Well, if she was, like, up to no good in Syria, you know... Who cares? Is that a bit ruthless? Like, if she was, trying to bring down Western civilization.
Well, I totally... Do you know what? I agree with you on that sense. But in the other sense, she still should have been told, because there can be clerical errors with this government, as we have discovered. So just ensuring that there is a method of communication so that you do know that you're no longer welcome would be nice.
When in doubt, send a postcard. Right, this is possibly my favourite story ever, and for one reason alone, which will become clear in a moment. Irish fishermen and the Russian military have got into a row, and if you want proof that there is a god, or a comedy god at least, you have it here. The surname of the Russian politician at the heart of the fishing dispute is Filetov. Maybe I should have said there is a cod. Anyway, Nick, This is yours.
Well, I can't follow that comedy gold, but yes, it's the fishermen plan to disrupt Russia military drills off Irish coast. This is in the Independent. And essentially, these fishermen have said, we don't want these Russians messing around on our shores. We're going to go and disrupt it. This is important to our livelihoods, this area. We want to protect marine life and biodiversity. And the Deputy PM, Varadkar, has basically said, just don't hurt yourselves, lads. He said, go there, but watch out because, it's military stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if the Russian military are going to be quite as up for the crack as the Irish fishermen are.
Yeah, so it's all going to kick off. But it's out, to give you the boring bit, it's outside Irish waters. So it's not illegal, but the Irish have been made clear they're strongly against it. They basically said, oi, Putin, no, essentially. But yes, and obviously with what's happening in Ukraine, they're very concerned about it.
Maybe Russia should invade Ireland.
Then it would really kick off, yeah.
Instead of the Ukraine. Now, your challenge, I notice you sneakily said, ooh, the Deputy Prime Minister. Your challenge is to pronounce that word.
I believe it's pronounced Taoiseach.
Taoiseach. Well done.
That's pretty close.
That's pretty good. I was expecting you to fumble and break out into a Prince Andrew sweat.
I don't sweat.
And you bossed it. Right, another maritime story next, and this one is off the northeast coast of England, and a rather concerning one, Diane. Dead seals, ankle-deep piles of crabs and lobster. This is not you, is it?
No, it's not me, for once.
Is it you, Nick? No?
No, it is. Oh, sorry, I thought you meant it was my fault that all the sea lions died. I was like, no, for once, not me, thank God.
No, I don't blame you for the dead octopus. I want you to know At least you're free from that. Right, tell us the story.
Well, nobody quite knows what's going on. But what's been happening is that, first of all, there were all these thousands of crabs that washed up on the shore, and the lobsters and the octopuses, and even sort of the lichen. Is that it? They were coming off the rocks. And the fishermen were all like spotting this first. And a man called Joe Redfern, who is both an academic and a fish whisperer, it seems, he has said that it's not natural. And they're blaming the free port. So there's this thing in Teesside called the Teesside Free Port. And it's where you sort of, if you're shipping things internationally and you just want to have a little stop off, refill your boat, or you maybe give it to another boat, you just drop your stuff off, you don't pay any tax. It's a little bit like duty free. You just drop your stuff off, go, sorry, we're not going to pay any tax because it's not staying, put it back onto another boat, it sails off, right? But they had to do a lot of dredging. So the first theory was they dredged up all these things and they poisoned all the animals. My theory was, well, it was happening in the northeast and there's a large amount of alcohol consumed there. And you know how, like, you know, obviously you have blood alcohol levels. I'm thinking that maybe there's so much alcohol that all the fish have just died or they're drunk. But no. So it's not alcohol, it's not the dredging. I'm now thinking French sea witch has cursed somehow the English Sea in the hope that they don't fish there anymore, but nobody knows what it is.
My question is, all these unexpected deaths of seals and crabs and lobsters, octopuses, have they had the vaccine? Dom, that's my question.
You're both heartless.
What?
You're
no, it is a serious story.
Dead seals. How dare you?
It is a serious story.
I'm actually not mocking it. I'm genuinely. We don't know.
No, it's true. We don't know. We don't know.
But it's a mystery because so many animals are dying, and DEFRA have claimed they've tested them and they found nothing.
Yeah, but that's one government body. DEFRA have got previous, and one government body saying it's absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong, is not necessarily proof. Right, everyone's favourite Pope, Pope Francis, has said not to condemn your children if they are gay. And what's more, he has a bad leg. Diane, this is you again.
Honestly, thanks. Yeah, so we shouldn't condemn the gay children. Really? I mean, we were kind of saying this maybe 40 years ago at least. What's he going to come out with next? By the way, everybody, you're not going to believe this. Don't smoke on planes. There's some new information. Oh, and apparently you should wear seatbelts in your cars. I know that it's in my opinion, it is finally the right thing to do. But considering how much torture the Catholic Church has inflicted and is inflicting on the gay community, it seems like a little bit. It seems very poor to sort of do this. And as for his knee ligament, well, mate, clearly you're not on good terms with the man upstairs, because if you were, your knee wouldn't be like that.
Right.
Outrageous. Well, yeah,
Nick,
I'm not...
Defend the leader of your faith.
Well, I'm a Protestant, but look, I mean, torture of gay people might be going a bit far, but look, yeah, I'm not sure. It's a bit of a non-story because the fact that it mentioned his leg injury twice in this story, I'm not quite sure why that's relevant unless he injured it shouting at gay children. So that was a bit odd. And
but the Daily Mail manage about 2,000 words on it.
I know, it's impressive, isn't it?
They make their story
a bit of a non-story.
So
my favourite part, on a lighter note, was he was talking about his leg injury. He said it's temporary. I hear it happens to old people. I don't know why it happens to me. And apparently that stuff absolutely kills in the Vatican, that joke.
I like Pope Francis. I think he's saying a lot of things that one daren't say, but I have a fondness for Argentinians. Right, I love this next story from the Mirror. Morrissey has written a gloriously funny open letter to his former bandmate, Johnny Marr. Nick.
Yes. Morrissey savages former Smiths bandmate Johnny Marr in scathing open letter. He's basically said, can you stop talking about me? So he said, would you please stop mentioning my name in your interviews? Because Marr in several interviews has distanced himself from Morrissey, which is what you have to do now because of his controversial opinions. And then Marr hit back, mocking him. Morrissey saying that open letter hasn't been a thing since 1953, showing how out of touch he is, because we know there's constant open letters, usually to or from J.K. Rowling. So that's a massive thing these days. But Morrissey just says, I haven't known...
From the comedy, was that the comedy collective?
Yeah.
Facebook comedy collective.
Right, yeah. An open letter, yeah. So that's just you, I think, Tom. But yeah.
And there's open letters to equity from people on the Facebook Comedy Collective. Anyway,
Right, quite niche, but yeah. Anyway, Morrissey's asked him to stop doing it. He says it's 2022, it's not 1982, and I haven't known you for 35 years, stop it. But this weird thing with Morrissey now where people have to distance themselves. They feel the need to distance themselves because they enjoyed his early songs about loneliness, alienation and longing. But then what they don't really get about Morrissey is that he's always celebrated and documented the working class of England and Britain and sometimes Ireland. But people get very uncomfortable with that because they think it's something to do with racism or something. And he does have provocative song titles like National Front Disco. You should actually listen to the song. It's not celebrating the National Front. And what people don't realise with Morrissey is in 2004, he had that track, America is Not the World, where he said that the president's never been black, female or gay. So that would be seen as like a pro-identity politics stance now. So he's had various stances throughout the years, but people get upset because he doesn't always align with the new woke ideology.
Yeah, I still think it's a funny letter. If I was, as you claim, such an eye-store monster, where exactly did this leave you? Kidnapped, mute, chained, abducted by cross-eyed extraterrestrials? It was you who played guitar on Golden Lights, not me. Our period together was many lifetimes ago, and a lot of blood has streamed under the bridge since then. There comes a time when you must take responsibility for your own actions and your own career, with which I wish you good health to enjoy. Just stop using my name as clickbait. There we go. He's a good writer. I never really liked his music, but he's a good writer.
How dare you.
One of the more tenuous justifications for holding the World Cup every 2 years, which FIFA is currently campaigning for, one of the more tenuous justifications has been made by Gianni Infantino. Nick.
Yes, FIFA president, more World Cups could save African migrants from death in the sea. This is in The Guardian. Yes, Gianni Infantino, president of FIFA. It's a sort of tenuous claim. He's saying we need to find ways to include the whole world and give hope to Africans so that they don't need to cross the Mediterranean in order to maybe find a better life. So it's this weird idea we should play the World Cup every 2 years. I don't know how it would work. We already have the Euros every other 2 years, don't we, with the World Cup? So we'd have to play it at the same time as the Euros, presumably. Almost impossible. And people have criticised this because...
They are straw-manning him a bit. They're twisting his words a bit.
Are they?
I think so.
Okay.
I mean, it's a stupid justification, but he probably shouldn't have drawn the comparison. But even in the way you just described it, you can see how they've straw-manned him.
Right. Well, yeah, they claimed he was instrumentalising death in the Mediterranean.
If you read the headline, you'd think the key point of his argument for having the World Cup every 2 years is to save African migrants, where it was more sort of passing mention.
Right, that's fair enough. Yeah, I mean, basically it was all in response to this report from Lord Fawkes, which said we shouldn't have the World Cup every 2 years, but we should look for other solutions, basically. But yeah, that's what it's in response to. What you thought he was unfairly treated?
A little bit.
Okay.
Have you got any insight to add, Diane, or can I go straight to the break?
Oh, darling, go to the break.
We've come to the end of part 2. Join us in just a moment for part 3, which is the best bit, when we'll find out about a whole new class of star. Cool.
Good evening. A windy one tonight. Those winds steadily easing tomorrow. And for most of us, a bright, fine day with sunny spells and certainly across the south, feeling really quite mild, certainly much milder than recent days. High pressure is just about holding on, but we do have this deepening area of low pressure just tracking to the north of Shetland, and those isobars really pinching together. So the wind's getting very strong across northern Scotland tonight. We have a Met Office yellow warning in place across Orkney in the far north of the mainland. Gusts of 70, maybe 75 miles an hour could cause some disruption. At the same time, a zone of rain will slink its way from southern Scotland, Northern Ireland to parts of northern England and Wales, but with all the clouds and the very strong winds, temperatures will be holding up for most of us well above freezing. Will be a dull, damp start though for parts of Wales, particularly South Wales in the morning. Some of that patchy rain will trickle into Somerset, Devon and Cornwall through the morning as well. Not much rain further east, and brighter skies follow, so it's sunny spells for much of Thursday, but there will be showers in the far northeast, wintry on the hills, and a cold feel here with the wind, but elsewhere temperatures well above the average and quite a bit higher than recent days. 10 or 11 degrees, Manchester, Belfast, London, Southampton, maybe 12. Quite quickly, though, those temperatures dropping during Thursday evening as the winds continue to ease. Light winds, clear skies could still lead to a frost for Friday morning. So a colder start on Friday morning, but again, generally dry and bright with some good spells of sunshine. It'll probably steadily cloud over from the west during Friday. Rain in northern Scotland, Patchy rain at times, Northern Ireland, northwest England and Wales. But again, much of the east will be dry. Temperatures perhaps not quite as high on Friday, but still a bit milder than it has been. So chopping and changing a little bit more as we go into the weekend in particular. Generally temperatures on their way up, but there is the possibility, that's all it is at this stage, of a wet and windy spell for some of us on Sunday.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. My name's Dominic Frisby. With me are Diane Spencer and Nick Dixon. And did you know that the fashion industry is responsible for 20% of industrial water pollution and 10% of total global carbon emissions? What is all this, Diane?
This is fast fashion. This is buying something, chuck it on and throw it away. And I think it's terrible. And a lot of things end up apparently being dumped in the desert, believe it or not.
In Chile?
In Chile, in the Atacama,
yeah.
Atacama, thank you. I was going with the Italian pronunciation. In the Atacama Desert, there's just all these leftover clothes that nobody wants to wear, which means in my mind that there's all these sort of camels wandering around in flares, or sort of you've got a scorpion wearing a shell suit.
I don't know. I don't think they've got camels in the Atacama Desert, but I take the point.
They do. I looked it up.
Oh, really? Oh, well, I stand corrected.
Mansplaining, that was. That was outrageous.
No, just because it's at altitude, I think, the Atacama Desert, if I've got the right desert.
They have some amazing animals. They've got antelopes, they've got grey foxes, and they're all now wearing awful clothing that doesn't fit.
It's bizarre. I think the clothes end up in Chile because, or should I say Chile,
Nice.
because they've got... It's the highest. It has the highest per capita income in the whole of South America, and for some reason they've got a voracious appetite for second-hand junk fashion, I guess. Yeah.
Well, it does mean that you've got these villages nearby that are just wearing a whole selection of vintage clothing.
That's really cool.
It's kind of like the world's largest car boot. I'm trying to put a positive spin on this.
They're kind of like they're like Shoreditch hipsters. The part I like about this is it confirms my prejudice that when people try and recycle and do all this stuff, actually it just goes in a big pile in the desert. And this confirms that it does. Carry on.
Yeah, right, thank you. The Mirror, I wasn't actually entirely focused on you because I was listening to instructions and getting the next cue ready. But anyway, The Mirror is next, and it's touching on what is actually going to be a huge ethical issue, self-driving cars. Who is responsible when things go wrong? This is you again, Diane.
Well, I mean, it's that, philosophical question, isn't it, Dominic? I mean, if a Tesla that's self-driving hits a Tesla that is also self-driving, does it make a noise? And who is culpable? And was anybody around to see it? So basically, they're going to change the law to make it so that if people are allowing the car to drive, they become the user in charge. And therefore, then, if the car makes the mistake, that means that then the user in charge is not charged, is not culpable for the problem. The problem is that we've already seen that they want to make people like Tesla to pay the fine if something goes wrong. But I already feel like the user in charge when my father is in the car. Like, he is the biggest backseat driver I know, and I feel like I'm automatic at that point. And so, can we extend the law somehow to cover backseat driving, please?
I'll tell you why it's big ethical issues, if you're interested, is because the decisions that the car makes in a moment of an accident will have to be set in the code. So it'll no longer be lawmakers making the decision. You know, do you hit the old lady, or do you hit the kid, or do you hit the tramp?
It's the tram question, isn't it?
Yeah. And these questions, and they've done, it's quite interesting, they've done surveys all in different countries around the world, and they get very different responses. I think it was in Brazil or somewhere, if somebody is considered overweight and somebody is considered of a good physical specimen, you should crash into the overweight one.
You're right. It's interesting. We're leaving these massive ethical questions up to some Silicon Valley geeks.
And it's a bit like, you know, free speech laws on Twitter are decided by Twitter rather than by the law.
It's the end of human responsibility. It's like we should have robots writing jokes. And then
the end of the nation state. Right. Let's move on to the next story. The iNews is next. Kids' toys. Nick, what's this one?
Yep, iNews toys, top toys of 2022, educational toys to usurp slime and fidget spinners as girls drive demand for STEM sets. Well, they claim the girls are driving the demand. If you look a bit closer, it's really parents and carers. It seems pushing demand for educational games after trying to keep kids entertained and still learning during lockdown. So it's basically saying that we're going to have all these educational toys to get people into, you know, engineering and maths and stuff, and then it goes through the top toys of next year. One of them was here's one, the 25th anniversary Tamagotchi, if you want to feel old. I don't know if anyone... I want to know if someone still has...
Why would a 5-year-old kid want a 25th anniversary Tamagotchi?
That's a great point, isn't it? I know. I want to know if anyone's still got a Tamagotchi that's still alive after 25 years.
I don't know what Tamagotchi is.
You don't know what it is? No. You never have them? You're a bit slightly wrong generation for you. It's right in my generation. It'll make...
No, I just had a deprived upbringing. We weren't allowed toys.
You didn't. You went to a posh school.
We've got kids.
And we...
Diane, have you got kids?
Oh.
Cut the violin.
I think there is I have two lovely stepgirls, and they are both at university at the moment. And I think that these science, technology, engineering and maths-based toys are wonderful. What was interesting to me is that it includes a £30 medical science set. I wonder whether children have, by some form of osmosis, been watching all this COVID lab stuff on the news, and they've sort of become a bit interested in it, and now they want to sort of make their own laboratory at home.
That would be nice, if only I believed it. Right, they just want to play video games. The Times is next, and kids aren't sleeping well, Diane.
Well, apparently in Scotland they're not, but have you ever been to Scotland? It's hard to sleep there. I mean, they're the people who've got the bagpipes. I don't know how you could sleep through anything. I've stayed in a very beautiful Scottish woman's house, and my word, she can talk a lot. So you're not being kept up by what's happening inside the house, you'll be kept up by what's happening outside the house. But apparently, they think this is to do with the pandemic. And I must admit, I can barely function when I haven't had enough sleep. Today, 90 minutes, sleeping, little nap. Have you had a nap, Nick?
Well, I've had a terrible sleep. That's why I've got a headache. And can I just say, sorry to make a big serious point, but they say here that that children's sleep patterns have deteriorated during the pandemic.
Supposed to be a light-hearted look at the news.
Well, it's serious and light. I'm bringing the serious part here.
OK.
They say it's deteriorated during the pandemic, but that's the classic thing of switching out. It's not the pandemic, it's the lockdowns and response to the pandemic that's done this. And if you turn over the page, Dr. Sarah Bonetti, Director of the Early Years at the Educational Policy Institute said lockdowns and constant disruption to early years settings have meant that many children have missed out on interactions with their peers, which are vital for early development. So it's another part of this cost of lockdown thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And not enough running around outside, probably. Too much blue light, too much television, blue light off your screens, all that. Right, the cost of a pint has gone up again. When I was at university at Manchester in 1990, you could get a pint for £1. This is from The Sun.
Wow.
£7 now.
Simpler times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, pubs set to hike beer prices by 50p a pint and Londoners could pay over £7. I'm shocked it's that low. I just assumed it would be higher. Have you seen the rents? I assumed it would be higher because, of course, I don't drink. No. Alcohol's for hedonists and heathens, Dom. So I don't drink, but I do. See? But that's what they're like. She's drunk right now. But I do sympathise with pubs. They've had a tough time. We should support pubs. I'll just support them with soft drinks. But we should support the pubs. But yes, the pint's gone up to over £7. And it's unfortunate. And
I don't think you can blame pubs for putting.
No, I'm not blaming the pubs because look, here it says. CAMRA's national chairman Nick Antona says, while disheartening, it's not surprising that the price of a pint is expected to rise steeply as the beer and pub sector continues to deal with employment, supply chain and costs of goods crises. So it's not their fault, plus all the stuff they faced during the pandemic. So, yes, I am on...
Massive rents in London.
Yeah.
And tax. Where do you stand on the... Well, I don't know what percentage of a pint is tax, but quite a large percentage.
True.
Where are you on this, Diane? Have you got any insights to share with us?
I do. I will let you know. When I was at Loughborough University,
my cousin went
there. 2000, you can get a pint of. It's basically snake bite and black, but it's called a purple nasty, and you get a pint of that for £1 on a Wednesday.
Even in 2000.
Yeah.
So 700% inflation in pints, assuming it now costs £7 in Loughborough. Which I doubt. Right, what is all this in The Guardian about a new kind of star, Diane?
Oh, this is so exciting. So there was this pulse, and normally they thought it was some kind of neutron star, which is when you have a supernova, which is one of the most energetic things that can happen in the universe, and it condenses kind of down and it spins really fast, like an ice skater bringing their fists in, and they spin and it becomes this neutron star that pulsates. But this one is behaving very differently, and it's sort of pulsed every 20 minutes, and they're not sure why. And at first, even a group of physicists said, oh my God, guys, it's aliens. We found aliens. They're broadcasting. We found aliens. And they got super excited. They were also thinking it.
But then some boring person said, it's definitely not aliens.
A boring person said what?
It's definitely not aliens.
Thank you.
They ruled it out.
Thank you, boring person.
Oh, what a shame. But it's a new kind of star? Is this right?
Well, they think it might be. They're calling it a magnetar, which I think is the only way you can say it.
A magnetar or a magnestar?
Magnetar!
Magnetar.
That's the one.
Okay.
Like a transformer.
And it's a very, very powerful star that has the most powerful magnetic force. It's just thrilling and exciting, and it's something they've never seen in the universe.
Oh, well, there you go. Right, the world's fattest cat is next.
Yes.
Also, back to Earth with a bump. This is in the Mirror, Nick.
Yes, very important story as well. Is this the world's fattest cat? I don't know if we have a picture or if I just have to describe this fat cat. Enormous kitty's owners tell trolls she's on a... Oh, there we go.
Oh, my goodness
On a
me.
diet. She's on
That's
a diet,
been
apparently.
photoshopped,
That's
surely.
on a diet. So just to give you some
Wow.
context. So, yes, this appears on Instagram under the
I
username...
think we've got a second picture. Would you like to see the
Yeah,
second
I'd love
picture?
to. There you go.
Oh, my goodness me.
Similar.
This looks like Jabba the Hutt.
That's what I was thinking. It looks exactly like Jabba the Hutt. So, yes, this cat's been posting under the name Fed Up Cat on Instagram, and it's been sharing its...
The cat's been
The
posting?
cat's been posting and sharing its fitness journey on Instagram. And how dare you doubt that the cat could do that? But yes, but then, of course, they've come under fire because people have said this is abuse, and inevitably for the internet, there's been death threats to the owners of the cat. I shouldn't laugh, but it's the internet. People have wished death upon the owners, which they've said is going a bit far. I see what they mean, but apparently it was pregnant. It put on a lot of weight after that, and they're claiming that they've not mistreated the cat.
What have they been feeding it?
Well, that's the question. They claim they've been feeding it a sort of staple diet
of chips,
of like 29 grams of Royal Canine diet, but it still seems questionable, doesn't it? Unless it's just really big boned. I mean, it's taking body positivity a bit too far. in my humble opinion.
Maybe the story's made up. Maybe it isn't. Diane, are you a cat person?
I've checked the Instagram. It's real. It's real.
Oh, really?
And they've got captions like "cute kitty" while the cat just looks sad and terrified.
Oh dear.
It's awful.
Well, when you said Russian fat cats, I was expecting a picture of Putin. Yeah, I do have an opinion. That cat's fat and definitely should lose a bit of weight. But I think it's interesting because I have.
So if that was the self-driving car, that's the cat that goes, is it?
I would say
You've got to choose between a cat and a squirrel. But those are the kind of decisions that are going to have to be programmed into the car.
You wouldn't want to hit that cat, you'd break your car. You'd smash your bumper on that cat.
That would count as a speed bump. The Tesla would read it as a speed bump and just go straight for it, I reckon.
Right, let's move on. Who knows what Tesla would do? He likes dogs, Dogecoins, doesn't he? So anyway, the Mail is next with possibly the worst pun ever. That Asda, as in the supermarket, that Asda be a joke, and that's referring to the fact that the supermarket is now offering £1 engagement rings.
Well,
is this demeaning the institution of marriage?
It's interesting because if you know, because you love currencies, don't you?
I do.
And if you convert it, £1 engagement ring equals 100 pennies of no thank you, I'm fine. I think
outrageous.
That if somebody honestly bought this, I think it's a lovely gesture. I think it's something very cute, but I don't think you should take it seriously because you'd spend more money going on the bus to get to Asda to buy the ring. It's like, really?
But if we're honest about rings, if you ever tried to sell an engagement ring, not saying I have, but they're actually worth nothing anyway. You'll know this. Like when you try and resell them, they're actually worth. It's all hype, isn't it? There's actually no real value.
Well, there's one
to them.
fee for the precious metal content or the gem, and then there's another fee for the sort of design. And it might be that there's no intrinsic design value, but they do. If you go to a jeweler to buy an engagement ring, they do take advantage of the
the sentimental aspect. But I mean, are you really? I'm shocked by what you said, Darren, because some people said this is just if it's real love, it doesn't matter. Are you saying you'd reject someone if they gave you a £1 engagement ring?
If somebody knew me well enough, they wouldn't even begin. They would know that it was a joke, and I would go, "This is definitely a joke." Ha 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 ha, and then I'd think, well, think that's something that's probably not on the mild Ofcom list.
This is what an entrepreneurial country we live in. One cheeky couple also joked that they could use the ring to pretend to get engaged at restaurants to get free meals.
I know.
Now there is a scam. Right, Nick, when jokes go wrong, this is from the Mirror.
Oh, yeah. Pub blasted for sexist permission slip asking woman to let men watch rugby with the lads. So the Town Square pub in Belfast, they put out a little tongue-in-cheek permission slip form on their Instagram. Dear girlfriend, wife, fiancé, your boyfriend, fiancé, husband has been invited to watch rugby with the lads at Town Square, Belfast on the following day, etc. And some people felt this was sexist done.
I can't believe it. Diane, you've got 20 seconds on the time traveller story. Can you give us... You've got to give us 30 seconds. You've been inflation.
OK, he says that he's been living in a post-apocalyptic world for 340 days. Well, mate, that's not even a year. Right now, we've got Ukraine, we've got COVID, the world's falling to bits. We've been living in post-apocalyptic times for 720 days, right? Yeah. When you've done another year in your post-apocalyptic TikTok, come back to me.
Isn't it amazing, though? He's created this reality to 6 million followers, and he's convinced them all he's living in the future.
I think he's just getting up really early.
That's probably what it is. Right, that is all we have time for, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much to my guests, Diane Spencer and Nick Dixon, who you can see somewhere on the comedy circuit at some point in the future. Google is your friend. Thank you to you for watching. We'll be back with more headlines at the same time tomorrow with me in the hot seat. Until then, from me, Dominic Frisby, it is cheerio. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed.